Hello, this is the front desk.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Crack and Backs podcast with your hosts, Dr. Terry Wyman and Dr. Spencer Barron. How you doing this morning, guys?
Doing fantastic, buddy.
Good. You looking handsome today, Lance?
Dear God. So today we are joined by Dr. Rey Gubernick. Is that how we say it?
Wow, that was pretty good, but that's why I go by Dr. G. It's a hard one to spell.
Yeah. So Dr. G here. Dr. G here has completed his studies at Los Angeles Chiropractic College in 1989 and has been treating patients ever since for over 30 years, firmly establishing his niche in the action sports industry and sports such as surfing, motocross, skateboarding, and MMA arenas. How you doing this morning, Dr. G?
Amazing. I couldn't think of doing anything else right now other than being with you guys. I'm honored to be on your show, ready for the banter, and let's do this.
Good to hear.
All right. Well, before we get into the motocross and supercross is what you're really famous for. First off, it's an honor to have you on the show, man. You do our profession so proud, and yeah, all the stuff you do on TV and all the stuff you've done with everything you do our profession very proud. But I want to go back a little bit. You played football for BYU, which is Dr. Spencer's favorite sport, and you're a big surfer, which is one of my favorite sports. But being a big football guy, we don't see a lot of those big football guys riding waves. What got you in from a football gridiron to the waves?
That's a great question. You know, it's like every kid's dream is to be a football player, right? It's like, I just grew up playing sports my whole life, baseball, basketball, the usual. But then I moved to Huntington Beach, California when I was 10 and 11. Rode my bike down to the beach, and I've been a surfer ever since. I was like, man, this is the greatest thing on the planet, being in the water and just the vibes that it sends off. I was hooked from the moment I set foot in the water. So I did take a lot of crap being the surfer / football player at my high school, because they don't really jive too much. You know, football players pick on the surfers, and the surfers think they're cooler than the football players. And, you know, I don't know which is which, but the bottom line is I was able to do both and really enjoy both of them and don't regret doing either one of them.
That's so cool. Well, yeah, now let's jump into some other stuff. So you have one of the biggest names in the world of extreme sports as a chiropractor, and all of us other docs that do similar things, we respect the hell out of you. But as a football player, what made you go after action sports instead of the NFL?
You know, it's great. That I've never been asked that question. I get questions asked all the time, and I've been on tons of things. That's the first time I've ever been asked that question. But, you know, football was always just my love. I'd wake up as a kid and open this thing that most people don't know what it's called. It's called a newspaper. And I would open it up and I'd memorize stats, and I would look how many carries such and such running back had and how many yards. It was just my love. And I played football and just enjoyed it. Never regretted a day ever doing it. And then all of a sudden something just clicked for me where I guess that adrenaline, once you stop playing, you still have that adrenaline to want to do something. And my adrenaline went in a different direction. It was mostly surfing, you know what I mean? And then I just got, I enjoyed it so much, and I started going on trips and just became a surfer. And that's the core of my being, is being in the water and, just catching a wave. And there's no experience like it.
So I wanted to ask you, because I'm kind of fascinated. You obviously are such a great character and have the charisma for chiropractic, and we appreciate that. And especially, working with celebrity athletes and teams and so on. I think that is what will just propel our profession to the next level, is that kind of awareness. There are a couple chiropractors that are on the golf tournament, the golf circuit, and they have these cool contracts with each of the players. I understand that you do a similar thing. Instead of a pay-as-you-go type of practice. Could you share a little bit of that? Because I think it would really inspire some of our listeners.
Absolutely. So, I get what's that cool way that they say it? People slide into my DMs. Did I say that right, Lance? People ask me that all the time
Yes.
on Instagram. Is how did you get into this? How can I do it? It was just you know, go. I am hired by each athlete, which I've done both. I've been hired by a team in the motocross industry and by individuals. And I kind of prefer not having a major corporation be my boss. I enjoy working individually with the athletes. So I sign individual contracts with the specific athletes. And in that contract is things like, I will be present at your race. In that contract, it'll include chiropractic treatment at my office whenever you need it. As well as, if you have an injury, there's an injury clause so they can get out of it because, sometimes that'll require, surgery or some other type of rehabilitation for their injury. So, I kind of started doing most of my contracts individually with the actual athlete themselves instead of doing it with, a major energy drink sponsor or, the actual team themselves, because then you are limited as to how many people you can work with. For example, if I signed a deal with Red Bull, then I can't really work with the Monster athletes. And if I do one with Monster, then it gets weird working with the Red Bull athletes. So I personally enjoy doing contracts individually with a specific athlete, and then I make specific specific things in there that it's I'm able to work with your competitor, and if you want an exclusive contract with me, then that's going to be a whole different contract. So on an average weekend, with at least with motocross, I'll work with 8-9 guys, and they are all very aware of who I work with, and I make it known to them that I will be working with other athletes, and that's kind of how it works as far as the contract goes.
That's great. I mean, I am definitely a living testimonial for working for the corporate side. That is, at the drop of a hat, you could be said bye-bye to. In the NFL, Major League Baseball, even hockey, and as wonderful a position as it is, it's also that fragile. It can be, So when you work with an athlete directly, do you do a plan for that tournament? Are you contracted for the year? You're contracted for the whole their tour? How would that work?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the way it works, I'll use motocross because that's the most prevalent one for me. At the beginning of the year, I'll send out, hey, or they'll contact me and say, hey, I'm interested in using you for the whole series, which is Supercross is 17 races and outdoors is 12 races, and then what I do is I tell them this is what included in the contract. I'll be present at each race. Included in that is all chiropractic services at my office is included in that contract. And, individually, sometimes I'll help them with nutrition or I'll help them with, physical training. There's individual contracts and I put different things in each one. But for the most part, it's to be present at the individual races and to provide them with, any performance, abilities, as far as stretching and doing soft tissue work, and then also the chiropractic care. And that is done at the beginning of the year, and I contract the whole year. The way that they pay me is they'll pay me at each month. So it'll get split up into, the season's about 9 months, and they'll pay me each month. And that's kind of how it works.
Thanks. That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
Hey,
No problem.
you know what? Let's just stay in that theme on motocross. A lot of motocross racers, and for those who don't know, are considered some of the most conditioned athletes on the planet. And people think that, these guys just sit on a bike and twist the throttle. And, So I have two questions for you. I know the answers, but I have two questions for you. One, can you explain to the audience why this statement is true, or why these guys are some of the most conditioned athletes in the world? And have you ever read or seen any studies that back that up?
I will put my house on the line on this, that there is no better conditioned athlete in the world than motocross athletes.
Agreed.
I've done the research myself. Anyone that wants to battle me on that, I'll give them my phone number. They can call me after your podcast. I mean, if you saw the heart rates, which we monitor heart rates on these athletes, and they send them to me, and we monitor them. We monitor what their heart rate is when they get up, and that's part of some of the deal that I have with individual athletes. Some I'm involved with a little bit more than others. Some of them have their own personal trainers who will do that for them, but that is a part of the contract. Sometimes if they ask me to do that, I will help them. But you're talking about heart rates for 35 minutes at 190 beats per minute. And that's no joke. I'll show that for verification if anybody wants to see it. These guys, I mean, any other person on the planet, their heart would blow up. I mean, it's unbelievable to see it. 35 straight minutes, their heart rates in the 180s, sometimes 190s. And I've even had a couple athletes who hit up to 200 for this 35 straight minutes.
Yeah.
So they're definitely... People don't get it when they think they just sit on a motorcycle and just turn the throttle. That's definitely not what happens. They're using every muscle in their body. They're pinching their legs. They're using every major muscle group in their whole body, and that's why they need a chiropractor when they're there.
Hey, Dr. G, let me ask you about that question, about that comment, because I don't ride. I've never treated anything, but so pardon my naivety, but having your heart rate up like that for that period of time, and instead of what we typically think that they're just cranking on the throttle, what are all, you mentioned the factors being, muscular contraction and balance. Is adrenaline an issue there too?
Absolutely. So we can look at their heart rates at the starting line, right? And then the 30-second board will go up, which lets the riders know that in 30 seconds, the gate is going to drop, and you can see a spike in their heart rate. And you can already tell that they're starting to dump adrenaline into their body. So they'll go from 100 and 112, 115 heartbeat up to 130 just when the 30-second gate goes up. And then when the gate drops, we'll see a spike sometimes all the way up to 150, 155, 160. And then by the time the first lap goes or second lap, they're up in the 170s, 180s, and then it stays like that pretty much for the whole race. Now Supercross is a little bit, different because it's lower speed, but outdoors we see them get up into the 190s and even sometimes 200s. Crazy, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, just again, naivety speaking here. Do they caffeinate? Are they caffeinated? Do they have pre-workout drink? What do they do to stay sharp?
So a majority of them, I enjoy this because it's one of the cleanest sports around. You know what I mean? It's like these motocross guys are as clean as can be. It's so monitored by WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency. So people aren't using any drugs. There's no blood doping. But a lot of what these guys will do is, if you go from a flat heart rate up to that high, then you get this big dumping of lactic acid into your body, and there can be ramifications afterwards. So what a lot of them will do is they'll get on a little stationary bike and just kind of get their heart rate going a little bit and get the blood circulating into their body, so it's not such a shock. You'll see if you turn on TV or you watch a motocross event, you'll see them doing jumping jacks. You'll see them moving their arms around just to get that blood circulating, so when that gate drops and their heart rate bumps up to 150, they're prepared for it.
I'll bet they sleep well after that.
Oh yeah. Well, what's crazy is like on a Supercross night, their heart rate gets up so high for such a long period of time. Most of them can't get to bed, because of the adrenaline and the lactic acid, and they'll sit there and stare at the ceiling till 2, 3 in the morning. So sometimes it has the other effect on them where they can't fall asleep. But that's just part of the deal. I don't feel sorry for them.
Well, okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit here and ask you
No,
about
no pun intended.
their
Shift gears.
trainers. I
no.
thought that in my head. I go, should I do it? I'm going to go for the shift
did.
gear metaphor.
You did.
Do you? And I go like, I'll feel like I'm doing the throttle here while I'm.
Even though there's a lot of tracks in Florida, we got to bring Dr. Spencer up to date on this motocross stuff because he's an NFL guy, so we got equate it with that.
I know nothing.
Mad respect for the NFL guys, but man, this sport's the real deal. You got to get to know it a little bit.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is a real deal.
I've been enlightened. That's cool. So the trainers to these guys though, they all work with trainers in what way? Weight training or conditioning, both, and then who handles their nutritional stuff?
So that's another great question. The sport has come a long way since the Rick Johnson days and even from Jeremy McGrath's day. I'd say pretty much almost every single rider has some form of a trainer, whether it be a trainer that helps them, that's a past or an ex-motocross veteran that helps them as another eye on the track and helps them be able to see things that they can't normally see. So you have guys like Ivan Tedesco, Garth Swanepoel in the motocross industry that were old riders who can give them a different perspective because they're actual riders who are helping them and telling them what to do on a bike. Nick Way is another really good trainer who's really helping the riders because he was a past rider. And then you have these other trainers who are more conditional trainers. We have ones that are out there that are hired by the individual riders that help them with nutrition, help them with their biomechanics on the bike, help them with their strength training, with their nutrition. I supply some of that for some of my riders as well. And it's very rare that you see a top level motocross guy that doesn't have some type of trainer who's with them a majority of the time.
So
don't you think that a lot of these guys, they get to a point and they think they know it all, but then they really don't, and they still need somebody to push them because it's so competitive now. I mean, first and last place is seconds behind, so they, I think a human body can only push themselves so far, and I think they need the other guy that's whipping a little bit.
Well,
Do you find that?
I can speak for myself. I know for a lot of these guys, even though I give them great additional physical support, that a lot of the stuff that I do for them is mental. Hey, you had a bad practice. Don't worry about it. Let's put that behind ourselves. And because I've been in this sport, I've paid my dues, and I've worked with some past champions. They'll listen to me, and I tell a couple of my specific athletes. Sometimes I felt like I helped them more mentally than I did physically at times. So having a trainer gives you that sense of accountability that a lot of athletes need, so that it's not that they're lazy and they don't want to do it. It's just that accountability is like, this is what we're doing today, and when you're done, then you're done. And sometimes these athletes need somebody to just kind of push them that little bit to where they get their stuff done that day, and then it's that peace of mind that it gives them mentally that they're doing everything that they need to do to be that percentage better than the other people they're competing with.
Have you, since you've been doing this for a long time, have you noticed a marked change in nutrition or their conscientiousness towards nutrition over the years, and how, in what way?
Absolutely, especially with the motocross. These guys burn so many calories because of how physically demanding the sport is. Back in the day, these guys would, nutrition wasn't as important as it has become. Now, we have one of the champions right now who's actually vegan. He, I don't know how that's possible in this demanding sport, but he is. And there's I've worked with a couple past champions who are probably the most clean eaters I've ever worked with. And then you have a couple, the younger ones who it's just not that much of a priority to them now, and they can get away with it. But the older you get, you start to become a little bit more conscientious about what goes into your body. I use the example with these athletes is that, you put crappy fuel into your motorcycle, what's going to happen. It's not going to run as well. And it's a real simple and real cliche analogy, but that's the truth. I tell them, what you put in is is how your body's going to perform. Just like if you put cruddy gas into your motorcycle, the motorcycle's not going to run as well.
Do you use any blood markers or lab work or anything that you could prove to them and say, hey, look, you're really need to up your certain vitamins or proteins or carbs or anything like that?
So it's crazy. At the beginning of the year, even team managers and owners of teams are starting to require from their athletes at the very beginning that we do some type of pre-season physical, heart rate, VO2 max, things of that nature, so that there's a base marker. And if the managers or anybody during the season questions their ability to they're sloughing, or they're fading. That's what they call it in the industry, is where they're out front and then all of a sudden you can tell their conditioning is lacking and they fall back, that they can go and jump back to them and have them do another exam and say, hey, you were here when you began and you're still here. And then that can prove that they're not doing what they need to do as far as conditioning wise to be competitive with the rest of the athletes. So yeah, it's starting to get really popular. I know quite a few trainers who train a lot of the athletes that I still work with are still doing that at the beginning of the season, and I think it's a good thing, especially blood work. One of the setbacks in motocross is when you're training that hard, you always have to worry about Epstein-Barr virus, because it's just one of those things that's prevalent in our sport. You can overtrain. And so if you have blood work at the beginning and you have it in the middle and towards the end of the season, you can kind of see where those people are going as far as blood work and make sure that there's no viruses creeping up on them and that debilitates their season.
Interesting.
All right,
Thanks.
I'm gonna go a little different direction. You're at the point now in your career, actually all three of us are, that everybody, all the new docs coming out, all the mid docs out there, they see where we are now, and they see the fame or the people we work on. They don't see what it took to get there. They also don't see the amount of travel it takes. So like the NFL, I was talking to Dr. Spencer, the NFL doctors are at every game on Sunday, and it looks glamorous, but until you really think about it, I'm somewhere, a different city away from my family every Sunday. You're at a different venue. You just came back from Motocross of Nations. Congratulations, by the way. You're at another venue every weekend, day in and day out, and with very little break. And when you're not traveling with them, you're traveling with somebody else. How do you keep yourself healthy, and how do you keep from burning out?
Oh man, I don't know if I have the answer for that. You know what? I thrive. I'm a workaholic, I guess is what the answer is. I thrive on getting people better. I love what I do so much. And you guys probably feel the same way. It's like, I can't imagine when people tell me that they're unhappy with their job, I'm like, that must suck. To be honest with you, I love what I do. It's the best thing in the world, looking at somebody and helping them get better. And then, an athlete, you take one and, I always tell these guys, I don't take credit when you win and I don't take the blame when you lose, but it does feel amazing when you see an athlete and you were able to help them along their journey and they win a championship. You know what I mean? It's like, it's very satisfying. So to me, my work is, I can't imagine doing anything else. I love what I do so much that I never really, sounds so cliche, I don't find it as work. It's just enjoyable. Yeah, you get a little burned out traveling, or when you miss a flight. And I was flying back from Motocross of Nations. I think I hit every airport on the way home because I had delayed flights, and that sucks. You know what I mean? Is you're flying home from South Bend and somehow you're in JFK. You're like, how the heck did this happen? But it's just part of the deal. I travel probably 33 weekends out of the year, and it's just part of the job. Yeah, I could say it sucks, but I just, you know what? I enjoy being with these guys so much. It's your family. You've been with them for such a long time, and you grow fond of some of these athletes, turn into friends, and they turn into almost like little brothers. And so that makes the job a little bit more able to cope with, and being away from family sometimes is a little bit better, because that's your new family, kind of.
Yeah,
That's great.
awesome.
Some people will hate me for this quote, but one of my favorite rockers, Ted Nugent, back in the day, used to say, "I
Oh, I
work
love
hard
that
to earn
guy.
my pay, but lucky for me, my work is play."
There you
I think
go.
we all share that same thing. Yeah, Ted Nugent. Um,
Amen.
so, what? You
I said
met?
I love Ted Nugent. He was my
He said
favorite.
amen.
Oh, yeah, that's the guy. All right, so now we are entering the phase of one of my favorite sections of every podcast. It is the rapid fire questions. And I have this sneaking suspicion you're going to do real well with this, but no pressure. Are you
Oh,
ready,
hey,
Dr. G?
I'm ready for it.
Uh, question number one. Action sports athletes can be pranksters. What is your favorite crazy moment?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I can't even. I got locked into a bathroom on the Delta flight in first class. They wouldn't let me out for the whole flight. So that was a pretty
No.
good prank. That was a pretty good prank. I started panicking. I'm not gonna lie. I was in that bathroom. I was like, I might be here for the rest of my life. I don't know how they did it. To this date, I
No.
still don't know how I couldn't get out. But yeah, that's a pretty bad one. Pretty bad one.
Wow. That could have been a real
That's
shitty
brilliant.
experience. Anyway,
Yes, it
all
was.
right. Question number two. What is your secret sauce for combating arm pumping riders? Ooh, I can't
Wow.
imagine.
Really have to reveal that? That might put me out of business. No, I will tell you.
Terry, are we
There it
giving
is.
him a pass or no?
Oh,
There is no one specific thing to get rid of arm pump, and I tell people that all the time. There's multiple different things that can help, but what I have found through the many years of doing this work with motocross athletes is when a rider feels comfortable on his bike, that in and of itself is when they don't feel the arm pump. Now there's other things we can do, soft tissue in their arms. There's machines that I use to combat, lactic acid going in there. But to be honest with you, they all help a little bit. But the biggest one is when a rider feels comfortable, breathes on his motorcycle, more than likely they will not get arm pumped. So did I answer the question?
Yes.
There you go.
What's more crazy
go.
is that for those who don't ride or have never rode, like myself, the thought of, just my son and I, when we train and do forearms, we'll do 20 repetitions. I can't imagine doing, a half an hour of pumping and pushing brakes and that. Okay, well, all the power to you. All right, question number three. With athletes running high heart rates for sustained periods, do you have a best tip for combating heat-related illness?
Wow. So we did not have very many mud races this year, which is really common in outdoors, but we had multiple events where it was over 100 degrees. And that is very dangerous for the motocross athlete. When your heart rate is going 180 and 190, and then outside it's 100 degrees, it is a recipe for disaster. So, the AMA was very smart this year in Paula, which is our race in California, close to San Diego. It was over 100 degrees, and they lowered the time of how long the riders were out there, which I thought was an amazing call. Safety first, the athlete first, and so I thought that was a great great call. Number one, it's all about hydration before. If you show up to the event and you're worrying about hydration, then you're too late. So, a lot of hydration before, up to 48 hours, you need to just, be as hydrated as you can. And then there's definitely some secret things that, keeping the body cooler, not cold, but cooler right before they go out. So we've kind of created some cooling vests that we put on these athletes that they'll wear underneath, over their jersey, that they'll go down to the line, and it just helps cool their body temp a little bit. So at least we can, combat the heat as much as we can. So those are some of the secrets that happen. Another one that the amateur riders are starting to copy is sometimes we'll put the helmets in a refrigerator, so the liners will get kind of cool, because your head is the one that stores a lot of the heat. So we'll put the helmet in a refrigerator, and the linings get kind of cool, and we'll keep the head a little less. The temperature won't get so high because the pads in the helmets are a little cooler. So that's a big secret that I'm revealing there. So hopefully that helps some amateur out there or something like that.
I will say,
yeah, in fact, if we can keep some kids healthy, especially at Lorez when it gets super hot and all that, I mean, that's the key.
I will say that's a brilliant maneuver. And again, for those who are listening that have no idea what it takes, like myself, I just can't imagine riding with a helmet and all that protective gear and how hot it must get in there. So question number 4, I need a mental health tip from you, and it has to do with when an athlete has a bad moto, what is the best trick to get their head back in the game?
That is, unfortunately, man, these guys, they're divas, they're the best in the world at what they do, and it still affects them. You know what I mean? Like when they go out there and they have a bad moto, it's one of the sports that is still like, when you can soften that blow a little bit. I'll use Chase Sexton, for example. He's one of my riders. He was battling with Eli Tomac for the championship, and he had a bad race on the very last race. That was the most important one that could have won him a championship. And as his chiropractor, when I was walking back to the thing, I sat there and thought to myself, what am I going to say to him that's going to make this situation better? What words of wisdom can I give him? What do you say? And when I got back there, I think, and you gentlemen know this, you can look into the eyes of the athlete, and sometimes you just know exactly what. It's just best to not say anything. You give them a thumbs up and say, hey, I got your back, literally, and you gave it your best, and that's all you can do. It's done. There's nothing you can do about it, and let's just move on and learn from this. You learn sometimes more from your failures than you do your championships. So, I think that's one of the things when you travel with athletes and you're with them all the time, you get to know them well enough to know when's the right time to say something and when's the right time to just shut up and just let them learn themselves and just be there to comfort them.
I love it. That's great to hear. Thanks. Now, for the last question, I want you to listen closely and listen to the full question. It's an easy question. Question number 5, final question. What is your favorite, like your jam music? Now, rumor has it, it's from Imagine Dragons.
You guys have been doing your history. That one comes straight from Cole Seeley, and I cannot say that on air, but he's wrong. He's wrong. That is definitely not my favorite.
Actually, it's not from Cole.
No, that is from Cole.
It's actually
that
not
is from
Cole.
Cole Seeley.
No.
Yes. He always
No.
says, hey,
Mikey.
Oh, Mikey. Oh, my. Yeah, that's one and the same. So basically, these guys played a trick on me and Imagine Dragons, and then I said yes, and they said, "Can you imagine me dragging my you-know-what on your face?" And they thought it was, it was a prank. There's another prank you can add to your list, which I thought was the dumbest thing. I didn't even get it because I'm too old to get their humor, the millennial humor. I don't even get it. But yeah, no, that's not my favorite music. I'm an AC/DC guy. That's what pumps me up.
Oh my
Man, they
gosh!
got me good.
Did you see the look? That look on his face is priceless. We have to capture that on video. I will never forget.
Oh
You
man.
know, the best part about that, G, was the pause. It was the pause going, what did they just say?
Yeah,
And then they
yeah,
hit
Oh
you.
man. I'll get you back, Cole Seeley.
Yeah.
You know, I told you we're gonna have some fun
Oh,
on
for
this thing,
sure.
man. You know,
Well, I would definitely, to answer your question, I hang out with two Australians now a lot in the motocross field, the Lawrence brothers, and it's hard not to be an AC/DC fan when you're around those guys. So, yeah, I would say AC/DC really pumps me up. Not that you guys care or anybody cares. You guys set me up for this whole thing anyway.
wait. Are you trying to tell me that Jet even knows who AC/DC is? I mean, yes, it may be Australian, but he's 18. I mean, I'm impressed that the guy knows who they are.
You know what? Australia doesn't have much to brag about. One of the things is meat pies, and AC/DC. That's about the only
Yeah.
good thing they have in their back pocket.
Yeah, they'll tell you that
Oh.
that they're big rugby and all
Yeah.
that. But yeah, when I was over there, I actually saw AC/DC while I was in Australia, and the place was crazy.
Oh man.
But that's
Oh,
funny.
that was priceless.
All right, now we have that going. I want you to stay on that path. With the crowd you treat, social media is such a huge, it's a big culture thing. But in our profession, we're seeing a direction causing a lot of concern, and it's a good way to open up conversation. But now we have to combat something, and that's the use of people in our profession using these Y straps. And all about the crack, and not about healing people, and not about stuff like that. What's your thoughts on that?
So it's really easy for me being a sports chiropractor. Manipulation. Oh, this is how I put it. The best handyman in the business has multiple sets of tools. You don't always need a hammer, and if all you have is a hammer in your bag, then you know what? When you need the Phillips screwdriver, and when you need the flathead, and when you need the wrench, if all you have is a hammer in your bag, then you're not doing anyone any service. The best handyman has the ultimate set of tools, right? And that's what I hope to have. So, manipulation is an amazing tool. It's the hammer. It's the most important one. Yet, when you work with athletes, especially the ones that I do, whether it be MMA, surfing, motocross, at times when they're crashing on their motorcycle, the last thing I'm worrying about is sticking them in a Y strap and adjusting their occiput. You know what I mean? And even though that's a very powerful adjustment and it helps a lot of people, that's not needed in what I do. So I got to have those other tools. So when a guy wipes out on a motocross track, the last thing I'm worrying about is doing manipulation. I gotta triage it. I gotta clean out wounds. I gotta assess the situation and see what's really going on. Did he tear something? Is there a fracture? So there's way more to what I do than just manipulation. So I do get some comments on social media where like, oh, did you adjust his C2? I'm like, no, I did not adjust his C2. He was bleeding from his mouth. I stopped his bleeding first. So I appreciate the people who the chiropractic adjustment is a powerful thing, and it makes us who we are. But there's a time for it. There's a time for the hammer, and there's a time to not use the hammer. And I happen to not have to use a hammer a lot. So it's still one of the important tools in what I do to help people get back and return back to sports. But when I'm there at these venues and I'm doing things, a lot of it is just hands-on, stretching, soft tissue work, and if anybody ever wants to, there's plenty of videos that go out there, and a lot of people will say, well, Dr. G, I never see you adjusting anybody. And I'm like, well, I adjust when they need to be adjusted, and you do that when the person needs it, and I'm a believer in it. But most of the time when I'm on film and people are filming me working on these guys, whoever it might be, a lot of times they just see me doing soft tissue stuff, and oh, are you a glorified massage therapist? And you get all these all these comments on things, and it's like, no, I give the patient what they need when they need it, and and we need to uplift each other, and nobody is. Nobody has the right answer for everything, but I just do what I feel like is best for that patient at that time, and I use the right tool when I need it, and whatever that is, that's what I hope to give them.
So, if there is any one thing as a chiropractor that I can take away from dozens of these shows that we've done, it is what you just said. This metaphor of being, having all the tools in the back. I never even thought of how profound it is of what you just said just now, is to have the more tools you have, the better, the more flexibility you have. And that's what athletes want. They don't want just, to get hammered with a hammer. They don't want to get pulled with get strangled with a strap. There's so many things. And so I absolutely appreciate what you said more than you probably imagined. So thank you for that.
No
and
problem.
I hope that really gets across to our listeners too, that are chiropractors or that are students that are listening. So a lot of tricks in the bag. So with that said, there's soft tissue techniques, there's adjusting. You probably do a lot of extremity adjusting, I imagine.
So I would consider myself an extremity specialist, especially when you deal with MMA, surfing, all the athletes that I work with, skateboarders, is I see more extremities than I see anything else. And when I say I'm good at it, I don't mean I'm good because I just was blessed. I'm good because that's the injuries I see. And when you see as many athletes as I do in my office, you start to get pretty decent at it because you learn from your mistakes. You learn from the things that you weren't able to help with. And so I've become I feel pretty confident that I can help somebody when it's an extremity. So between elbows, wrists, shoulders, skateboarders, surfers, knees, shoulders, the motocross guys, it's a plethora of extremities, ACL rehabs. So that's why a lot of these people don't see me on these shows or, on these podcasts and on all these, things. They don't see me doing a lot of manipulation because at that time, that's not what they need. Now, later on down the line, I'll incorporate that for sure because we know that accelerates healing and it gets them back to where they need to go better than anything else that's out there, medication and things of that nature. So, just don't always just look at something on a video and think that that's all somebody does. There's a lot of behind the scene things that occur. Whether you're on the sideline at a football field or whether you're at a rodeo, whatever it might be, there's a lot of other work that goes into helping that athlete return to sport than what you just see on TV.
Yeah, that's like saying that every cardiologist gives the same high blood pressure medication for any kind of high blood pressure, no matter what you look like or act like or feel like or your comorbidities or anything. It doesn't make sense to me. But what did you graduate knowing from? And this is a while ago, but did you graduate from chiropractic college having all these tricks in the bag and tools, or did you add them as you went along?
Absolutely not. My hero, and I've listened to his podcast on years. I wanted to be Tim Brown when I graduated from school. It's like he's on the beach all the time. He's helping all these surfers and he's helping all these volleyball players. That's what I want to do. But I didn't have the tools, right? Like I just didn't. I had a hammer. That's all I had, and maybe a screwdriver. And so, my recommendation to people graduating from school is get your hands on as many people as you can, get as many tools, go get certified in different techniques, do all those things that you can do so that you have as many tools in your bag that you can to help those people when they cross your path. So one of the most popular questions I get from people is, how did you get where you were at with the motocross guys? And, guys, you're just not going to show up to Honda and go, can I be your chiropractor? That's just not how it works. It's like you start off you start off, treating the local guys at your track, and then, volunteer your time doing some other things. And then the better you get at your craft, then more people are going to call you, because you are going to be that handyman that can fix whatever when it comes across your your path.
Oh, that's great.
You know what, G? What makes you great is we've had a couple of other guests on our show. We've actually had Tim Brown on our show. He's one of my favorite human beings. But what makes you great is your relationships. And I think that's what a lot of doctors sometimes forget, is relationships are so important. That's what makes athletes feel comfortable with you, to tell you what's really wrong instead of just going, I'm fine. And I think what makes you great, and that's what I've always picked up on your social media, is your relationships with your athletes. If you're getting hate mail because you didn't just see two when they have a mouth bleed, they're missing the big picture. They're missing the relationship you have with that guy, that he came to you in the first place because he's bleeding in the mouth. So your relationship is super key, and when you have those kind of relationships, it allows you to treat people. So in closing, the microphone is yours. The respect is super high. I've been wanting to actually meet you. Actually, you and I met once. You just don't know it because we didn't really say hi. But so Jesse Nelson grew up with me as well. And when he got injured, they did a bike ride for him. And you were there. I was there. The only difference was I was on a bike and you weren't. But
It's all about relationships, Gary. I was just schmoozing.
I was.
Schmoozing.
I was schmoozing while I was on the bike. Okay. You were schmoozing with the wives back in the tent.
I won't go down that path.
But anyway, you've the respect I've always had for you is super high. But now the microphone is yours, and we have our podcast is all about giving things to help other people be healthy, and giving tools to other health practitioners that they may use tomorrow to be better at what they do, to give back to not only profession, but to have the athletes look at what we do in a different light. So the microphone's yours. What's the one thing you want to leave the audience with to remember this episode and you by?
Man, that's a lot of pressure. First of all, thank you for having me. It's been an honor. It's always a pleasure to just meet other people who are just as passionate about getting people better as I am. You think that there aren't other people out there, but when you cross paths with other chiropractors who just are just as passionate, it's always just it hits you right here. Just be passionate about what you do, no matter what it is, whether you're a chiropractor, whether you're a cardiologist, whether you're, a trash man, whatever. Just wake up every day and just say, I'm going to be the best chiropractor. I'm going to be the best trash man. I'm going to be the best at whatever it is. But don't compare yourself to other people. That's the one thing that I notice is, there's enough room and space in this world for 100 amazing chiropractors, and let's quit as a profession comparing ourselves to other people and trying one up everybody. Let's just all sit together and go, how can we help the community understand what we do better and just help more people? And I think as we do that as a chiropractic community, that everybody benefits from it. So when chiropractors call me up and say, hey, do you have time? I'll make time. You know what? It might be at 8 o'clock at night when I'm done treating patients, but you want to bend my ear about something? Help other people who are starting out and just be passionate about what you do. I think it will show. Your patients will appreciate you more, and the relationships that you build with your athletes will be those that you can cherish, and they'll send in practical jokes, and later when you're on a podcast and embarrass you in front of people, those are the type of things that happen. But that's because we're friends. It's like there's one thing having patients, but when those patients turn into lifelong friends, that's when it's all worth it, right? So I appreciate you having me on. I'm honored to just be on your show and pick my brain and let me pick your brain, and it's to the benefit of all those people who are starting off to be chiropractors and who are current chiropractors who, if there's anything we can do, we got to build each other up and quit tearing each other down.
Right on.
That's the greatest thing to end on right there. And you're welcome back anytime. If there's some really cool stuff that you're doing and you want a platform, our platform is yours. So we're glad that you're here, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Dr. Spencer Barron, it was awesome meeting you, and someday I will be as tan as you are.
Gotta have good lighting, man.
I noticed how you did say me about tan. I really appreciate.
Bro, we both.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Crackin' Backs podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and make sure you follow our Instagram at Crackin' Backs Podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday. See you next time.